Bilgewater is no longer a one comp trait, and if you're still forcing MF every game, you're already behind. This patch, Bilgewater has multiple real win conditions: TF 3-star, Graves 3-star, Illaoi 3 into Ryze, and the classic MF vertical. And the difference between a top 4 and a first place is knowing which line to choose, and when. TF3 is stronger than ever with his damage buffs. Graves, still fast 9s just like last patch, and Fizz is now a real dual carry instead of just a filler unit. And Bilgewater shops reward players who understand tempo, efficiency, and positioning, not just rerolling randomly. In this video, I'm going to break down every viable Bilgewater line, how they all connect, and the exact fundamentals that make them consistent. If you want to stop guessing and start winning with Bilgewater, this is the guy that ties it all together. Let's get into it. Before we talk about the Bilge variants, we need to cover the fundamentals, because every Bilgewater line follows the same core rules. The single most important goal is getting to 5 Bilgewater as fast as possible. That's where the comp actually turns on. You must unlock 5 Bilge on 3-2. So if you open your Bilgewater shop and see both Gangplank and Nautilus but don't have enough Serpents to buy both, you should roll on level 6 to hit 5 Bilge immediately by looking for either Gangplank or Nautilus in your regular shop, then purchase whichever one you didn't hit from the Bilgewater shop. Otherwise, if you only have one of them, take an Econ Augment if possible, level to 7, and hold an extra Yordle to unlock Fizz. Guaranteeing access to 5 Bilge is your #1 priority. One of the most commonly asked questions is when and what to feed Tahm Kench. TK2 is one of the strongest caps to the Bilgewater board, so feeding him early on is both effective and relatively cheap. Ideally, feed him 1-cost tanks and casters, prioritizing HP and AP. TK is a comparable tank to Nautilus 2, so if you do not have Juggernaut or Warden in, then put your tank items on him as soon as you unlock him. Additionally, he's the best holder of the Bilgewater tank items, such as Pile of Citrus and Bark Knuckles. Now let's talk about how the Bilgewater shop economy actually works, because this is where most people grief their games. Bilgewater rewards you for buying things that matter right now. You should never hoard coins unless you are specifically saving for something already in your shop. Efficient stats, 2-star units, and key items all follow the same principle. Immediate value is king. For stat buys, the rule of thumb is simple: 1% of a stat for every 10 Bilgewater coins. So 30 coins for 3% is efficient, 45 coins for 3% is not. This is important, since once you buy a stat at a certain level, it gets taken out of the pool, making the next stat more expensive. You should prioritize buying the efficient stats at each breakpoint, which means you will need to toggle between 3, 5, and 7 Bilgewater shops to purchase all efficient stats offered at each breakpoint. You can toggle Bilgewater by adding or removing Bilgewater units from your board before you are making a purchase from the Bilgewater shop. Then the shop slot will be recycled on the same tier active on your board at that instantaneous moment. This technique is used to increase the chance of making a specific Bilge purchase. For example, here is the full list of Bilge shop offerings. If you are looking for Illaoi upgrades, make sure you field less than 5 Bilgewater units when you are cycling through your shop, since Illaoi is only offered in the tier 1 Bilge shop. You can field your Bilge units back after you make the purchase to keep farming more Serpents at higher Bilge tier. Next, when is Bilgewater actually worth committing to? The biggest green light is a TF orb, or finding TF anytime before the stage 2 carousel. That's usually enough to justify going all in. Early Illaoi copies are a special case. They let you delay your commitment slightly because you're really just using Bilgewater to enable Illaoi 3, and you don't need to fully cap Bilge until you're pushing level 9. Now, one item defines almost every Bilgewater game: Captain's Brew. This is by far the best item on TF, and it is not worth putting on another Bilgewater unit. TF applies it better than anyone else. Because of that, you should always be rerolling on 5 Bilgewater specifically to look for Captain's Brew. Finally, positioning. This matters more than people realize. Fizz should default to A2 or A6, which prioritizes jumping the enemy corner carry. TF should be placed on D2 or D6 because his cards will usually hit the corner unit from these spots, applying both his card effects and Captain's Brew at the same time. If you understand these fundamentals, every Bilgewater line makes sense, and once you don't fight the system, the comp becomes way more consistent. Quick shout out to MetaTFT for sponsoring this video. Everything I just covered, stat efficiency, Captain's Brew priority, positioning defaults, I learned by analyzing the data on MetaTFT. I use the desktop app as my primary source of information for analyzing comps, figuring out BIS, studying specific comps through VODs, and figuring out key conditions setting winning and losing rounds apart. All that prep is how I build my edge, using MetaTFT to construct my game plan for playing at the highest competitive level, knowing what comps to prioritize, when to commit, and how to adjust to lobbies. If you want to study the meta and gain edge the same way I do, download the app using the link in the description. Now let's talk about the variants, starting with Graves 3. Graves 3 plays almost exactly the same as last patch, and that's a good thing. It's still one of the cleanest Bilgewater lines when you natural a lot of copies of Graves. Your first goal is simple: unlock Graves as soon as possible and start prioritizing AD and tank items. Just like every other Bilgewater line, you want to rush 5 Bilgewater as fast as possible in order to unlock Captain's Brew. Once you bought Captain's Brew, you now want to drop back down to 3 Bilgewater and reroll your Bilgewater shop looking for Graves copies or Bilgewater duplicators. If you don't see Graves or dupes, don't panic. Buy efficient stats instead while continuing to roll your build shops. You will never have to roll your actual shop until level 8, only using Bilgewater coins to reach Graves 3. You're never saving coins here unless you're saving for something already in the shop. Whenever you reach 7 Bilgewater, you still reroll on 3 Bilgewater if you're close to Graves 3. Otherwise, you can go for 1 Bilgewater item before dropping back down to 3 to look for Graves. For items, Cutthroat's Cutlass and Deadman's Dagger are Graves' best in slot. If you absolutely need a third item, First Mate's Flintlock is acceptable as well. As default, Pile of Citrus and Barnacles are both very strong options. You can buy any one of these, but this part is important. Only buy one Bilgewater item unless you are very far ahead in stats. If you're snowballing hard, you can justify a second. Otherwise, don't overcommit. After buying that one item, you want to drop back down to 3 and 5 Bilgewater to finish buying the remaining stats. Just keeping a rough estimate to keep track of your stats is fine. From here, your duo carry is either Fizz or MF, depending on whether your leftover items are AD or AP. Once you're stable, push level 9 and cap your board with Kindred and Shyvana. One last rule that matters a lot. Do not drop 7 Bilgewater until you fully upgrade your 5 cost units. Play TK over Gangplank and add in whichever legendaries you hit, or powerful units like Swain, Tarek, or Skarner. Once you cap, you can drop Illaoi for Voli and MF for Lucian and Senna. For Graves himself, the ideal setup is QSS, Giant Slayer, and one more damage item, either a Bilgewater item, or Guardbreaker, Deathblade, or Gunblade if you need healing. If you follow this structure, Graves Leader gives you a stable mid game, a clean fast 9, and a very reliable way to close out games. So what do you do if you slam AD items early on, but do not natural many copies of Graves? No problem. You can pivot your game plan and play fast 8 carrying MF and Fizz, one of the best defaults this patch. Misfortune uses similar items to Graves, making it an easy transition. The comp has the exact same priorities, rushing Captain's Brew and buying efficient stats in the early game. However, you don't drop back down to 3 Bilgewater to look for dupes or copies. In this version, if you see dupes, you can use them aggressively to 2-star units that you're paired on, including Nautilus and TF. This default also duo carries Fizz, who is the best unit to scam fights against strong opponents. Going for gloves is a huge priority in this version, since Fizz wants Jeweled Gauntlet and Strikers, and MF can also use gloves, including Strikers, Last Whispers, and Infinity Edge. Ideally, you want 3 damage items on MF, so sword items are also good. Deathblade and Giant Slayer are both great items for MF. Your last item wants to be a Bilgewater item if possible, and her best item is First Mate's Flintlock followed by Deadman's Dagger. If you do not have one of these offered, then go for one of the tank options on Tahm Kench or Nautilus. Since you do not have Graves 3, your late game board is more flexible, allowing you to drop to 5 Bilgewater as soon as you hit high priority units. This includes Kindred and Shyvana, dropping Illaoi for Voli or Wukong 2, dropping Graves for Senna and Lucian, or playing Tarek on your board in AP heavy lobbies. You want to follow the same rules for buying stats to cap out your board. Once you've hit the majority of your board, you can start feeding high cost units to TK, or even feeding 2-star 5 cost AP and tank units such as Fizz, Fiddle, or Ornn to make him even tankier. TF3. TF3 plays very similarly to Graves 3, but this patch, it's often even stronger. The key difference is that TF3 is a default line now, not a niche option. Because of his damage buffs in the patch, if you open with early TF copies, you almost always want to commit to TF 3-star. The early game plan is the same as Graves. Get to 5 Bilgewater as fast as possible to buy Captain's Brew, and once you hit Captain's Brew, you immediately drop back down to 3 Bilgewater and start rerolling for TF copies and Bilgewater duplicators. Just like before, you're never hoarding coins here. If you don't see TFs or dupes, you buy efficient stats while continuing to roll. For your dual carry, Fizz 2 is better than MF2 in this version. TF pressures backline already, and Fizz stacks perfectly on top of that pressure. Because of this, rods and gloves become your best item components in the comp. Even though TF does significantly more damage now, he's still the best utility applier in Bilgewater. That's why his best itemization is Captain's Brew paired with Void Staff, and either Morella or Red Buff. TF does not need another Bilgewater item beyond Brew, so instead, your Bilgewater item priority should either be a tank item for your frontline or a Fizz item. For Fizz, the best Bilgewater item is Cutthroat Cutlass, followed by Black Market Explosives. When you combine that with Jeweled Gauntlet and Striker's Flail, you'll literally watch enemy carries get one-shot by Fizz and TF cards. Because this version of the comp doesn't generate many AD items, it's completely fine to drop MF and Graves entirely. Instead, you want to upgrade your board with quality units like Shyvana, Volibear, Tarek, and Kindred. On levels 8 and 9, even if you haven't hit Kindred yet, you should still prioritize playing 2 Quick Striker. The team-wide buff and attack speed are extremely valuable, especially for TF. If you follow this structure, TF3 gives you consistent backline pressure, strong utility, and one of the highest caps Bilgewater has this patch. Illaoi Fast 9. Illaoi Fast 9 is the highest cap version of Bilgewater. Brush Illaoi 3 using the build shop by buying resources only at the 3 builds tier, prioritizing every Illaoi you see, and use the duplicators to finish off Illaoi 3, hopefully by the end of stage 3. For offensive items, slam your highest tempo items on either TF or Graves, as AD items can be held by Voli later into the game, and AP items by Ryze or Fizz. Prioritize fielding 5 builds and 7 builds as quickly as you can to increase your economy, and roll minimally on stage 4 to ensure you can get 9 for legendaries. Make sure to unlock Kabuko on 3-7 so you have him for your Ryze unlock on 4-7. Level to 9 on 4-7 and field 4 region traits to unlock your Ryze. Typically, you'll be fielding 3 builds, 1 Targon, 2 Yordle, and 3 Failure to get your unlock, but you can replace Failure with 2 Piltover or 2 Void if you don't have the Failures before you roll. After unlocking Ryze, roll for your whole board. From the build shop, you want to buy a Brew for tempo on stage 4 and a Black Market Explosives for Ryze, his best build item. Position Fizz on the far left or right side of the board to jump the corner carry with Ryze behind him for cleanup. Augments in Bilgewater Bilgewater are all about supporting your tempo without breaking your economy. Because it's completely acceptable to level to 7 to unlock Fizz for 5 Bilgewater, econ augments are very strong in this comp. They let you do that without completely sacking your gold. This applies to both 2-1 and 3-1. It's another important early game scenario to watch for. Sometimes you get dropped to TF, but you don't have 3 components to unlock Graves yet. In these games, you should prioritize an item augment on 2-1 whenever possible, so you can unlock Graves on 2-2 and stabilize immediately. Outside of those specific situations, you generally want to prioritize strong combat augments. Sweet Treats is very strong, especially because it synergizes directly with Bilgewater items. Jeweled Lotus is another premium option. It lets you skip Jeweled Gauntlet on Fizz while also increasing your overall damage ceiling. Soul Awakening is also excellent for tempo and scaling. Any emblem augment is also very valuable. Bilgewater has multiple extra traits that now synergize well with emblems after the buffs, and the Bilgewater emblem itself is an insane stat increase on its holder. You should also highly value strong item augments, like Spirit of Redemption or Portable Forge. Augments like Exiles are very solid. Fire Axiom is especially interesting because it lets you skip burn on TF entirely. In an ideal game, you're aiming for a balanced augment setup. 1 econ augment, 1 item augment, and 1 combat augment. That said, always let your board state decide. Bilgewater rewards flexible augment choices, and the best augment is always one that makes your board stronger right now. Before we wrap up, let's quickly cover the final boards for each variant. For level 8, most variants share the same core. 7 Bilgewater plus 1 tank flex unit. Your flex bot is either Swain, Wukong, Braum, or Taric, depending on who you hit first. At level 9, here's how each variant caps. For TF3, keep TF, Tahm Kench, MF, and Fizz, cap with Shyvana, Volibear, Swain, Kindred, and Lucian Zeta. Graves 3 plays the same as the TF3 board, except you don't need TF3 and you replace MF with Graves 3. For Misfortune, that's Fizz, Tahm Kench, Shyvana, Volibear, Nautilus, MF, Kindred, TF, and Lucian Zeta. You can also replace the Nautilus with Swain. And for Illaoi Fast 9, you're playing your unlocked board for Ryze plus Ryze himself. That's everything you need to know to dominate with Bilgewater this patch. Remember, this isn't a one-dimensional trait anymore. The key is reading your lobby, recognizing which line you're supposed to play based on your natural units and items, and executing the fundamentals cleanly. Master these lines and you'll climb in no time. Follow for more in-depth guides on executing comps soon.